That's a good idea, too. Bill Pollock just said something. He said Kennedy had over $6 billion in new Treasury notes printed just prior to his assassination, which Johnson destroyed within 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. What's your point? That's not news. Come on, Bill.
Well,
the news is I want to know who wrote the check to the other couple of gunmen on the grassy knoll.
Oh, smart guy, huh?
Yeah. and actually, Pollock's been around the spook world long enough. He probably knows where that points, but we don't need to go there. I mean, that's not my area of expertise. I mean, it's interesting stuff, but it's interesting stuff.
I think what it does, it shows us that there are certain elements in the government or above the government, because this is not the government talking now, and they will stop at nothing to get their agenda completed. If you are in the way, they will either go over you, they will push you, they will bury you, or they'll kill you. They don't care.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. The things that we know from an examination of history that are likely to occur immediately upon the U.S. descending into a major economic depression will be, number one, turning off the Internet. And the reason for that is ideas are very dangerous to authoritarian organizations in power, because democratic people acting in their own common best interest are incredibly powerful. And so what I always look at when looking out into the future is I try to envision a future where any particular leg of my milk stool is gone. If my ranch is gone, what is my plan? If my ranch is taken over by the government for whatever purpose, if the Internet is turned off, one of the things I've done is I've got a very excellent collection now of tube-type ham radio equipment, most of it dating from the 60s and 70s up at the ranch, because the tube-type radio equipment is virtually immune to the effects of electromagnetic pulses.
Right.
And by the way, there's been all kinds of unfounded stuff going around the Internet about was Russia's power outage this week another WebBot hit, because one of the things the WebBot said would happen kind of along in this time frame is a huge power outage in north central China.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, then we get into nitpicking. Is Moscow in Asia, or is it in Eurasia, or is it in Europe? I've found references either way, but nevertheless, the big power outage with the high emotional impact may not have been the one in Moscow. We still may have one in China coming, but we don't know when.
Wow.
Well, and that's the problem. We live in such a complex world where the new world order itself is literally fighting among itself over how things should go from here on in.
Yeah.
Matthew Simmons, who I have incredible respect for, one of the best brains in the oil industry, a member of Dick Cheney's infamous Energy Task Force, has published a number of papers and been interviewed a number of times, and we're real close to the issue of peak oil right now. And whether peak oil is here today or not doesn't matter, but here over the past couple of weeks, several of the major oil companies have started publicly saying that oil will peak in the next 5 or 10 years, and that's a hell of a change of tune from companies that previously had a golden energy horizon out to 2030. So we see this turning around. And interestingly, one of the things that Matthew Simmons has stated is that one solution to the energy problem is, and he doesn't like to say it, but a large-sized recession or global depression. Because we don't have the energy to keep burning at the present rate. That's why the survivalist in me wants to get rid of my little high mileage foreign car that I just put a new timing belt and had the heads done on.
Yeah. Right.
Get rid of that sucker post haste and go get one of these new H3 Hummers. They're for my money, I think they're one of the neatest vehicles on the road, because the new Hummer, the H3, gets around 26 miles to the gallon, and I can afford it.
The Hummer?
Yeah, the H3, the little one, baby Hummer. It's not even a Hummer; it's more like a Hum 3. It's a very much smaller vehicle, but that doesn't make it any less roadable. Yeah, check it out, the H3. Very, very interesting vehicle.
Wow.
Okay, and they're cheap. I mean, you can buy one for $35K, including tax and license. They're not like the $65K grown-up one.
Yeah. How much room do you have in them?
Lots more than I have in a small foreign car.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
And it still has the same maneuverability as the big one, or close to it?
Yeah, close to it.
That's interesting.
So and it's not as wide, so you can get it between smaller rocks and canyons and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because the big one is actually a pretty good sized vehicle. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah. You know, it's like every time you make a decision in life, you're casting a vote, and in the case of Simmons is being very candid. You know, yes, a major economic downturn is one way to keep things going. Another would be a large-scale terrorism event. I mean, there's just all kinds of ways that we can see where government could, or powers that be beyond government, beyond the elected government, could manipulate things such that the oil supply would last longer, but we wouldn't have anything to do but sit home and watch mindless TV. And it's at that point when the country does go into an economic depression, and I argue we started going into it in 2000. At that point, that's when the internet will be licensed, just like radio broadcasting was licensed by the Communications Act of 1933 or 4. Because it was too much power. It was too much Wild West, and so I think we can look forward to internet licensure, and so whenever you write an email to anybody these days, write it in such a way that you would not be embarrassed to read it in a court of law, such as they may or may not be constituted in the future, and may or may not be particularly friendly to your political point of view.
Well, that doesn't portend to some really happy, relaxing times, does it, George?
Well, I'm telling you right now that with the pension funds blowing up, I mean, ask GM auto workers, ask retired Ford guys, ask them how they feel about their pension fund. I mean, the pension guarantee entity that was set up to protect these guys has been a 24-carat failure, and the distraction crowd in D.C. is selling our major networks live coverage of press conference of non-news events. Get serious. I mean, you have a right as an American to vote with your channel clicker, and if I can give you some channels to watch, I would strongly recommend the History Channel, because William Shirer said it a long time ago. Those that don't learn history are bound to repeat its errors.
Sure.
I would encourage you to watch C-SPAN. I would look at Lou Dobbs, who is one of the shining stars of Rational on CNN, and I would advise everybody to buy several ounces of gold and several ounces of silver for every member of the family, and remember that silver can be turned with a 9-volt battery. A couple of pieces of silver wire, you can make your own
colloidal silver.
Colloidal silver, which is one of the best disinfectants to kill infections and will even neutralize anthrax. In fact, they're now making socks with silver threads in them, because there's enough silver oxidized off by sweat that it will kill anthrax when soldiers are exposed to it.
Well, if you listen tomorrow night, we're having a show on silver, colloidal silver.
Really?
We're talking to a doctor from Australia who has some of the most incredible results of research that he has done.
You're kidding? Like what?
Listen tomorrow night, George.
I'll be in Phoenix, and I'll be listening on the new wireless router that I'm bringing up to one of Elaine's son's place.
Wonderful.
So we should be able to listen to you on 3 or 4 laptops simultaneously.
And George, we're out of time, and I want to thank you, my friend.
Oh, I enjoy it.
We got to do it again because the information is too important, and you know, I got my fingers crossed because I'm praying that nothing happens real soon.
And that's exactly right, Alex.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to plan for the worst, pray for the best,
Yep.
and then you're seldom likely to be taken by surprise, except that the webbots do keep talking about this suddenly out of the blue thing, and we are in this window roughly until the end of the month.
Okay.
And I'm one other thing. If you're into grand rituals of secret societies, there's a lot of things that seem to point to some kind of an accident or event at the Indianapolis 500 this weekend. So I don't usually watch auto racing, but I'll be watching that one simply because there's so much about something called the torch ceremony and such that seems to fit in that kind of a window.
God bless, George. You take care, bud.
And say hi to Wild Bill.